Anti-Afro Spengalis. I'm going to talk to you about our justice system. I'm going to expand on the legal term ex parte, and I'm going to address issues involving restraining orders. But before I do that, I want to give you a profound example of ignorance, of ineptitude. We need to make comparisons. So check this out, and I'll come back and tell you the rest of what's going on.
I was listening to part of Smoke last night, and I started to grab the link, but then I remembered that him and D Darrell, they like to talk about me a lot. They bring me up in every show and lie about what I said, and they scared to drop the link. Right? They claim they want a dialogue, but it's very clear they scared to say that shit to my face. So I didn't bother, right? Because these niggas will drop the link talking about me, and I go up there to confront them, and then they want to try to spin a misogynistic narrative that I'm desperate to talk to them. And it's like, okay, it's whatever. I'll just go live on my own show. I get it. I get it. Y'all want an echo chamber. I get it. I get it. Let me drop my link. Because we all know who ain't scared around here. We know who all ain't scared to talk about what really did and didn't happen in reality. So my link is dropped. Anyway, Smoke was over there lying again. And again, like I said, the 2.0, they can't push a motive. I mean, they can't push a narrative without lying on me. And I feel like Smoke made a fool out of himself trying to read that dismissal of that protective order real slow, reading it all slow like he don't know what words mean, and then trying to convince people it don't say what it said.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking to? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Oh, yeah? Huh? Okay.
That's all I can think about. She says, we're scared of her, or they're scared of her. This is just the opposite. This is Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver back in the 70s. But I think it is so uncanny how Carrie constantly makes these statements about others that clearly apply to her. Out of everyone that I can think of in and around the Umar Johnson sector, at the top of the heap in terms of being terrified, in terms of being scared of essentially her own shadow. All of these behaviors are fear based, or harassment fear based, trying to talk tough fear based. And in the midst of all of this, she's snatching down content. She is running and hiding. I'm not going to go into all I know about what's happening with Carrie Ann, but she knows they're on her trail. She knows she's being watched by the white man. And I heard that she went on some race attacking rampage against somebody on a live stream tonight. Wouldn't the state of Georgia be interested in that? Well, let me say this before I move on to the main commentary. If you need to be talked about, you need to be talked about. That is not the same thing as harassing people, targeting people, using anti protected class language. If you need to be talked about, you need to be talked about. The situation certainly applies. She has been engaging in conduct that is so horrendously irresponsible. You damn well better believe I'm going to talk about you. And I'm going to keep talking about you. I'll be damned if you're going to get up here and spread some bullshit that's dangerous, just like Umar Johnson. That's why that sector should never, ever be changed. They embody the conduct that Umar Johnson is known for, getting up on a world stage and talking about shit he knows nothing about. That is Carrie's number one identifier. It's important to say just because someone has a law degree or a law license does not qualify them to handle matters involving domestic violence or restraining orders. That makes just as much sense as a cardiologist trying to do orthopedic surgery. These are specialties. Furthermore, most people who file restraining orders do so without an attorney. You do not need to be an attorney to assist someone with putting together a restraining order. If a person has decided he or she wants to file a restraining order, it's their words. You can assist a person with pulling the documents together. That's not legal advice. For whatever reason, if someone needs assistance, they can get it from family, friends. They can go to court where there are restraining order clinics. They make sure you have all the documents together. There are multiple agencies that support people who are victims of domestic violence. There's assistance there. You don't have to go it alone, and you are not forced to get an attorney to file a restraining order. If you like to seek the assistance of an attorney, you're welcome to do that. I can assure you that lawyer is not going to take that case unless he or she is qualified to handle the case. It's unethical to take a case and provide services when it's not within your level of expertise and knowledge. Repeating, all attorneys don't know how to file restraining orders, nor are they familiar with laws that govern civil restraining orders. It's so disgusting that you have these loud mouths coming on here, making it appear that getting a restraining order is arduous, inaccessible. You need an attorney. No, you do not. There are those who just can't seem to keep their mouth shut, no matter how much trouble it gets them in. They just want to be heard. They have no caring or concern about the damage it might cause if someone actually believes what they're saying. How in the world can someone so profoundly ignorant, who knows nothing about the legal system, let alone ex parte, tell Smoke he doesn't know what he's talking about? How are you going to tell someone if you don't even know about the issue yourself? Wouldn't it take somebody who has knowledge of the issue? This one subject, who claims to be a lawyer, didn't even know in order a class action lawsuit, it has to be handled by an attorney. Didn't even know that. Oh, I did. I don't know if that's just true. How the hell are you going to file a class action lawsuit? Class action involves more than one person. You can represent yourself, but you can't represent other people. You would think somebody who supposedly has a law degree and a law license would know better. Before I get into the ex parte expansion, explanation, and examples, take a look at the screen. You saw this before a second ago. Think about where you fit. How would you rate yourself in terms of knowledge about our justice system, about ex parte, and about restraining orders? Rate yourself. Either you're going to be on the column on to the left or the column on to the right if you're facing the screen. You can't exist across both columns. And within each column, you can integrate. It's fluid. Really think about where you fit in. If you're not fitting in on the column that talks about having basic and working knowledge, you shouldn't be running your mouth about restraining orders. What you should do is get educated. Ask to the facts. Running your mouth about shit you don't know anything about is very dangerous, can cause an incredible amount of harm or even death to those who are listening and decide not to take any action in their best interest. But like I said, it's more important to some of these subjects just to be heard. They don't care what the outcome or consequences result. Ex parte, I'm going to expand upon that. Ex parte simply means one side to the benefit of one party. Ex parte can be a document or documents. Ex parte can be a verbal communication. Ex parte can be written communication. Ex parte can be authorized and sanctioned. Ex parte can be illegal, unethical, and even criminal. You can be disciplined by the bar if you participate in any ex parte process that is not legal, that is not sanctioned by written law. And of course, that's going to be a matter of interpretation That would be the judge that's going to interpret that. Rule of thumb is everybody knows what's happening. Both sides have equal knowledge. Of course, there are always exceptions. I'm not talking about criminal court. This is civil court. So let's look at a situation where, like in Georgia, they do have civil harassment restraining orders and domestic violence restraining orders. The DV restraining orders depend on the relationship that you have with the person. Kids in common, in a romantic relationship, married previously, and in some circumstances, some states include roommates with no personal contact. The fact that you were living with someone, you don't have a relationship like romantic relationship, you were never married, you have not engaged in any sexual relationships, they will still consider that domestic. You go into the court. Are you going to call the person that you're filing a restraining order against and say, "Hey, Sally or Bob, I'm going down to the courthouse at 10:30 tomorrow, and I need you to go down there with me because I'm going to file a restraining order against you"? No one is going to do that. Obviously, you're going to go down to the court, and we're talking about without legal representation. Most restraining orders don't involve an attorney. But let me throw an example in of when an attorney is filing a restraining order on behalf of a client and they're going to have an actual ex parte hearing. The attorney gets a date. Once they arrive at the hearing, the judge is going to determine whether the hearing is going to move forward with the specific request that the attorney has. The judge can go ahead and decide to issue the temporary restraining order, but not allow other issues that the attorney is requesting. The judge may just go ahead and allow the basics. Most people file their own restraining orders without an attorney. So you go down to court and you go to the clerk's office, you get the forms, or you've had the forms before you got there, you're filling them out. You fill out the forms, you take it to the clerk, to the counter, and they go over to make sure the boxes are filled out. They're not going to obviously give you legal advice. You need to follow the instructions on the forms. It's going to be a little bit of a wait. The clerk may call you back and say, "The judge has some questions. Wanted clarification on this." You give the clarification. There are other times when they say in about 30 minutes, the judge wants to ask you a question. All of this is considered ex parte. It's one-sided. That's what it is. This is sanctioned ex parte. You're not going to get in trouble for going to the court and filing a restraining order and trying to get the judge to issue you a temporary restraining order, because it would be absolutely outrageously an abuse of the law if a permanent restraining order is issued without the person, the defendant, the respondent, getting an opportunity to give their side of the situation or file a counter, a cross complaint, they call it. So if the court decides you meet the criteria to have the temporary restraining order issued, they will do that. You will get a court date. You will have to have the person served in person. You can either get somebody 18 plus to serve it, who's not involved, who's not a party to the action. The person needs to receive the restraining order 5 days before the hearing. Now, it might vary 4 days, 3 days. I'm not sure about Georgia, but typically it's about 5 days before the hearing. So they have an opportunity to respond. Now, they don't have to go down to the court before the hearing. They will have a chance to put together their paperwork or documentation and bring it to the court. So there has to be that 5 day window. If you're not able to serve the person in person, you can go back to the court and get another date. Or in some instances, they might allow you to call or do it online. But you have to have the person served. It's It's an abuse of justice, and it would be invalid to hold a restraining order hearing and the person doesn't have an opportunity to defend him or herself. So let's say the person is served, you go to court, then there's going to be testimony. A restraining order is not going to be issued unless there is testimony taken. Let's say the defendant decides to not answer certain questions, that's up to the defendant. The judge will hear both sides and make a decision about whether the restraining order will be permanent. Now, we've learned in the state of Georgia, permanent can be 6 months. It could be 1 year in other jurisdictions, 3 years or 5 years, depending on your state law. But we know Georgia has a 6 month restraining order. It's considered, quote, permanent because the restraining order was issued by the judge after a hearing was held where both parties were present or the defendant was served within the time prescribed by law, giving him or her the opportunity to be present. This is how it works with a restraining order. It's pretty straightforward. Now, what I want to also make sure is known, instead of listening to these idiots that have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, if you ever get into a circumstance where you think you may need a restraining order or you know someone who needs a restraining order, reach out to your local domestic violence service agency. You can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They will have the agencies in your area. So there's always an opportunity to find assistance. Unlike listening to these fools on the internet that try to put you in a box, try to put you on a plantation and convince you you don't have any rights, no one's going to listen to you, nobody cares. There are people who care out there. There are people who are more than willing to assist you. Idiots and demons online want you to suffer. They don't want you to get relief. They sit here and they ridicule and harangue, mock people who have experienced domestic violence. And they are apologists for domestic abusers. I want to make sure I make the distinction between reformed and non-reformed. Things happen. Situations go down. The question is, what are we doing here and now? What is the present day? Was a lesson learned? As we can see, these demons are not in a position to learn any lesson. They're only determined to wreak havoc, to try to make you suffer and feel the way they do because they can't seem to get themselves out of the quagmire that they have convinced themselves that they're stuck in. So they want to pull everybody else in with them. This is not about gender. Domestic violence, as far as perpetrators and victims, are from all genders, all sections of communities and cities, all of these stereotypes. Carrie Ann even said that. Black men be raping people. Black men be doing this. We know what Carrie Ann thinks about black men. Take note of who she's used to defending. It's knee-jerk. You may be trashing black men, but there's something about the element that she's defending that is captivating. She's not going to come and tell you what that's all about, but it's knee-jerk. She's so quick to latch on to the most abusive and treacherous. She trashes the brothers on one hand, but she's attracted like fly on a glue trap to abusers. She chases down pills. She chases down this Rage Pigs. She even stated he was harassing her and threatening her and scaring her, but she's got this knee-jerk defense. I'm not going to put Photon in that equation because she was the one sexually harassing him without this vulgar and disgusting language stalking his ass all over the place. But she absolutely is knee-jerk drawn to a certain type who is harassing, who is abusive, who is stalkerish. And I heard this feedback. Someone was saying she kept mentioning Remix's name. Not going to get you anywhere. Remix is not on probation. Rage Pigs is. Remix is not the one putting his hands around women's throats. As a matter of fact, there have been females in and around the Umar Johnson sector who have threatened Remix with violence. Carrie Ann has threatened multiple brothers with violence right up here in these YouTube streets. You need to shut the hell on up talking about who's violent. She's threatened people with firearms. She's threatened the Owl Show. She's threatened so many brothers in these YouTube streets. And she's running around here talking about remix. She sounds like a freaking fool. You sound like the fool that you are. You were automatically drawn to the worst abuser, who yourself said he was doing so. He was threatening you. He was harassing you. And he's on formal supervised probation. Remix isn't on any probation. So he can come and go as he pleases. The freak that you're defending has, in all likelihood, a curfew. Violating probation, non-reformed, first felony at 19 and still going at it in his mid 40s, still perpetrating criminal offenses that you're involved with. You're involved with the Social Security crimes because you got those emails too. Remix isn't involved in these Social Security crimes. You're just pissed because Remix didn't want anything to do with you. Remix found you extremely distasteful, unpalatable, disrespectful. Oh, you know what I should do? I should post those live streams where Remix is schooling you. He ran you right off YouTube telling you about yourself. That's why you're pissed. That's why you're so pissed. Remix doesn't have any restrictions to his freedom. Remix can vote. Can Rage Pigs vote? Well, convicted felons can vote, but you got to go through a certain process. But what are the odds that this dude has his voting rights restored when he hasn't even obtained his GED? Oh, yes, and Carrie Ann was running around here talking about educated. And you ain't got no degree, and you don't even know how to talk. Uh-huh, but she's drawn, again, like flies to a glue trap. To who? The worst abuser in and around the Umar Johnson sector, grabbing women by necks, threatening revenge porn. Where's Remix threatening revenge porn? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not even defensible. It shouldn't even be defensible. It is so far beyond ridiculous that she tried to bring in a Remix and she has nothing else to say. Just like she accuses black men of all these crimes they never committed. Let me re-emphasize, Remix has no restrictions to his rights. He's not on a fourth waiver. Anyone know what a fourth waiver is? That means they can come into your shit and start searching without a warrant. Someone shows up to Remix's house without a search warrant. We want to look into your home. You got a search warrant? Nope, you can't search. With Rage Pigs, he has to let them in to search. If he does not, that's a criminal offense. They're going to haul his ass out of there. So his rights are curtailed. He's non-compliant. I can guarantee you he didn't finish any GED. Yeah, let's see it. What are the odds he finished the GED? Are you going to be helping out? Didn't you say you have some sort of certificates to help people who are struggling with reading and writing? Well, she lies so damn much. And let me tell you this. You can tell, let me tell you this. I'm not going to tell you everything I know, but I'll tell you what you can certainly figure out. She ain't teaching in front of no kids. She ain't in no classroom. Have you heard Carrie mention anything about the shooting right there in Georgia? Not too far from where she supposedly was working or claims to be. I don't believe a damn thing Carrie Ann says. Was working or claims to be. I don't believe a damn thing Carrie Ann says. We had a bit of a disruption to our whole situation involving Carrie Ann because of the shooting. But she hasn't mentioned a word, as far as I know, about the shooting. If someone really is a teacher teaching in a classroom in front of students, you would think that she would address that. She looks like, or sounds like, she's on the Glorion Murray plan. Remember what the Glorion Murray plan is? Claiming to still be technically working while some shit was going on. And Carrie Ann herself told us what was going down on her job before. Listen to this.
You know, when I had got diagnosed, right, some years back, it was really important to me that I was working and a productive citizen. It meant a lot to me that I wasn't like crippled or trying to make an excuse to be lazy. You know, all the things we, especially as Black people and Black women, especially, it's difficult for us to like get over that hustle culture. That like I'm supposed to be working hard. And my doctor, who's been with me this whole time, she used to always warn me that I worry too much about work. Like, and I've gotten better with it, like the work-life balance. But I used to work so hard. It was so, especially once I got diagnosed, like I needed to prove it to myself that I wasn't crippled, that I could, you know, that I wasn't incapable. It was so important to me. And I remember, as a matter of fact, when I first got diagnosed, my doctor put me off work for like 2-3 months, because that's what they do when you go on meds. You got to take off time from work until you can figure things out. And I blew up at her. I was crying. I was upset. I wasn't yelling at her, but I was angry that she was putting me off work. And she said to me, you know, when you're not neurotypical, sometimes you have like what they call atypical reactions. And that was the first time somebody had used that word to me. She said, you know, what you're doing is fine. The way you feel is fine. But you need to know that your reaction is atypical.
I find it very interesting, these comments that Carrie made. And she was running around saying people were institutionalized or had been in inpatient psychiatric care. So you got to really listen to what subjects are saying. They are so quick to pull out of thin air scenarios and claim they apply to you. Well, if I was in the betting game, I bet the circumstances applied to you, Carrie Ann, while you're running around here saying people were institutionalized. And also with her falsely accusing Black men of crimes against children, I bet that's another factor somewhere in your life. Don't get me to start digging around, Carrie Ann, because if I do, I can guarantee you I could pretty much guess what I'm going to find. In the meantime, she tries to run around here applying all these different scenarios to people's lives that she claims applies. But when you turn around and start pointing it back to her, she starts getting extremely agitated. Extremely. Oh my goodness, someone's talking about your dad while you're up here running around here talking about everybody's family and kids, but you can't tolerate someone talking about your family life and your situation. If we gave enough of a damn, we'd go look into it. We have other business to deal with when it comes to Carrie Ann. Yes, I'm talking about you. Yes, I will continue to talk about you when I get good and damn ready to do it. If ever there was any fear, you hear it in her voice. You see it in her actions. Not convincing, not by a long shot. Out of anyone I can think of in and around the Umar Johnson sector, Carrie Ann would be top of the heap as far as being terrified, as far as being scared, all this false bravado about what she gonna do. What the hell are you gonna do to someone? You're not running anybody anywhere. They don't want to deal with your irritating, broken record, nonsensical, hysterical demeanor. Always looking for compliments, begging for compliments, fishing for compliments, just so desperate for acceptance. By who? The same subject she turns around and talks shit about a few days later. Well, she's left twisting in the wind regarding this rage pig situation, trying to get us to give information. I'm not giving you anything. You have your own ass to worry about. And if you had any sense, you'd take care of business in that respect. But who the hell am I? Someone who's going to make sure what I set out to accomplish is going to be accomplished. That you can be sure of. You want me to tell you what's going to happen with Carrie Ann? What always happens with Carrie Ann? She does all the tough talk and I'm so big and bad. Now she's starting to go in the spiraling whine mode, crying and whining that people are talking about. You heard it in the clip. She's worried that people are, quote, talking about her and it's not even actionable. They're just giving their opinion about how ridiculous she sounds. They're not sexually harassing her. They're not threatening her, but she's up here all in tatters because she can't handle the bullshit that she dishes out to other people. You know I have more coming your way. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.